Nestled in the heart of South Devon, you'll find a small market town that's a little bit different, a place where the community spirit is thriving and the high street is always busy. This is Totnes. In this video, we're going to uncover exactly what makes Totnes so special, including meeting some of the local residents and discovering the very best things to do, including some hidden gems. Let's begin our exploration of the town with a trip down the high street. The town is centered around a particularly steep high street, and actually every August there's an orange racing competition held here where people roll oranges down the hill. There's definitely a more alternative vibe here, and you'll find lots of independent shops. Indeed, high street name brands aren't very common. To learn a bit more about the local community, we're now going to meet Sarah, who's the owner of the Totnes Brewing Company. Thank you so much for agreeing to meet us today, and if you could please introduce yourself and your business and what brought you to Totnes.
I'm Sarah Kidd, and I've been running this business with my husband for nearly 13 years. So when we came, it was a barrel house music venue and a cafe downstairs, and now it's a music venue and a microbrewery. So we've basically introduced the element of the brewing our own beer because that helps keep the music venue going. It's really kind of created a bigger community of people who come here, because it used to just be known as a music venue and it was quite grotty and small. It had a great reputation for being fun, but there were a lot of people who didn't want to come here. And at the time, somebody had come to us, one of our staff, and had said to us, we keep buying all this beer from other people, why don't we brew our own? And so we gave it a go, and it took off really quickly. The local community embraced it straight away, which was fantastic.
And what really drew you to Totnes in the first place?
So I started bringing my husband here on holiday to the southwest when we met about 18, 20 years ago, and he'd never been here before and he absolutely loved it. And I used to come as a child with my mum, and we always loved coming to Totnes because the shops are really quirky and it's just a really friendly place. And so when this business came up for sale, we kind of just took our chance.
So apart from your indoor space, you've got this lovely space at the back with an amazing view onto the castle.
Yes, we do. We really like it. So in the summer, we have lots of parties out here, and you literally can't move. It's really, really good fun though. All ages come, which is fantastic. And because we are much more of a community place than the tourists, it's got that feeling where everybody kind of knows everybody.
Talking about the tourists versus the locals, why do you think Totnes has such a thriving community hub and amazing high street compared to many other places in the UK?
I think it's the history of the place. If you go to all the cafes and get talking to the locals, so many of them went to the college at Dartington when it was open. It closed, I think, about 20 years ago. But many of them came and stayed, and they've helped create that community and they've brought that creativeness with them. It's also, we're on a train line straight to London, so it's very well connected. You can walk to the countryside from here within about 10 minutes. You're in beautiful rolling hills. So it's kind of got the best of everything, and I don't know, it's just magic. It's magical.
What's your favourite part about your job?
Coming in when the bar's already open and it's full of people having a really nice time, and they had chosen to come into, I'd say my bar, it's our bar, and spend their money and have a good time. And it makes me really proud.
And you must get to meet so many amazing people from all over the place, and all walks of life too, because everyone comes to the pub in the UK.
Everybody goes to the pub. It's a great social leveller. Everyone goes to the pub, and you do meet really so many interesting people. Everybody who walks through the door has got a story.
What's it like to be a small microbrewery in a world which is often dominated by big corporations?
It's challenging. We don't get the same access to reduced costs like bigger breweries do. But on the other hand, it means that we are closer to our customers' hearts. We can brew whatever beer we want at the drop of a hat.
What do you do about the alcohol-free beers? Do you make alcohol-free beers or do you sell them?
We don't make them, but we sell probably the biggest variety you've ever seen in a pub. We sell about 20 different brands.
Oh, I didn't know there were 20.
There's so many. When we started a few years ago, they were not that nice, I've got to be honest. But those beers are getting better and better. And we are always looking to expand that range. I would say it's about a third of what we sell is alcohol-free beer.
Oh wow, that's such a high percentage.
It's because drinking culture's changing. Younger people don't drink as much as my generation did and do still. People are much more health conscious and we're just trying to keep up with it.
And you mentioned that you can brew your own beer at the drop of a hat. Do you ever get requests from customers or?
Yes, we do. So in the summer, people want fruity beers. A few years ago, when everybody was really into the super high ABV drinks, so like your 7-8%, we did brew them and they were delicious, but we've reined that back now because you don't really want a pub full of people drinking that beer all at the same time.
So you were saying that these are all the names of beers you've come up with in the past, and how have you come up with the names?
We just make them up. So Hobnob, it was a biscuity beer, so we just thought of that. Spanner Hands is the first beer we ever brewed, and we couldn't think of what to call it, and the brewer was holding a spanner in his hand, so we called it Spanner Hands. This Wee Gertie, Gertie's the dog of one of the brewers.
And do you ever get inspired by customers who come in?
Yes, we do. So we brewed beers for favourite customers' birthdays. Birthday bitter, so that will have been for one of our customers. We had a beer called Jared because he was such a beloved member of staff and he left to go back home to New Zealand. So we had a beer called Jared. So yeah, and that is the great thing about being a small brewery. You can just react.
And the branding is really beautiful and unique on each one. How do you come up with that?
We just make it up as we go along at the moment, I'll be honest. One of our old brewers designed that one with that image there, which we have in the window as well. Then we had a friend of ours designed that for us. And then my husband designed this one and this one. This is a beer we brewed to celebrate the release of an album by a local band that we know. Their new album's called New Place, and the band is Pale Blue Eyes, and they're friends of ours, so we brewed them a beer. Really badly poured beer. This should be a tiny bit smaller, but you still want some. And I would say the further south you go, people prefer to the head gets bigger and bigger. Okay. I don't know why, that's just how it is.
Because sometimes I think people in the UK would be shocked at what you get served in France sometimes. Sometimes it's like a third.
Yes, exactly. But the aromas in the head, this is the thing, part of your drinking experience is the aroma of the beer, which can be different to the taste, and that's in the head, which is why more European countries like to have it because it's more of the experience, whereas in England we want to get our money's worth, and so we don't really want a really big head because, as you can see, look, it's shrinking down. So for many of my customers, I'd leave it for a bit and then I'd just top it up for them.
Has anyone ever sent a beer back?
Oh, loads of times. Yeah, that's quite common. There you go, that's perfect.
Thank you so much for showing us around, Sarah. It's been so
pleasure.
Interesting to learn about the beer and also the microbrewery and also the music element of the business.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for coming.
And how can people find you? So if they're coming to Totnes, how can we visit you?
We are at the top of the high street, just before the Narrows, the historic Narrows, where the best shops are. And we are open every day. Monday to Thursday, we open at 5. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we open at noon.
Perfect, thank you. I'm here with Roy, who's the founder of the Hairy Barista. You've got a gorgeous cafe here. How long have you had it?
8 years.
And what made you decide to make a plant-based cafe? Obviously, that's not something you see every day.
I became vegetarian when I was 21, and then a few years ago I became vegan. Initially, we were vegetarian in the shop, and then a few years ago, we became vegan. I believe that as long as we can live healthily without animal products or animals, that's, for me, is the right way.
And what's your favourite thing about living in Totnes?
I think the diversity, acceptance. I think people really accept each other here. There is a lot of creativity. Yeah, I think it's just a beautiful, buzzing town.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Right next to the Totnes Brewing Company, you'll find the rather unassuming street of Castle Street. Now, this is actually where you'll find the entrance to Totnes Castle, as well as a rather unusual bookshop. As soon as you arrive in Totnes, you'll be greeted with amazing views of the castle, which towers above the rest of the town. This is one of the best preserved examples of a Motte and Bailey castle anywhere in the UK, and is believed to date all the way back to 1068, when the land was given to a lieutenant of William the Conqueror. Today, most of the walls and keep date back to the 14th century. This is Northgate, and it dates all the way back to the medieval period. Once upon a time, town walls would have encircled Totnes, and this is one of the few remnants of that period of history.
So my name is Francis Checkley. I'm one of the 3 directors of Castle Books. We began a CIC, which is a community interest company, almost 10 years ago. And now, on a regular, like Saturday, we probably make over 150, sometimes over
wow.
£200. A lot of the money that we have left over goes towards charities in Totnes.
Oh gosh, so like what kind of charities are you
So,
supporting?
for example, the library and also the local primary school. So a lot of that money goes back into the community, and that's what a CIC is, Community Interest Company. Do we take a break now, or?
Yeah, let's have a look inside.
Okay, let's go inside then. The lady you can see up here, she died in 2013. She'd actually had the shop since in the 60s, I think probably 67 or something like that. And as you can see on this photo, that's Belle right there. And she started this as a cafe, making cakes and serving coffees and things. And then gradually she put a few books out here for people to read. And then gradually it went to becoming a bookshop, not just on this floor, but on the 3 floors as well.
It was a 3-floor
A 3-floor,
bookshop.
yeah. As I said outside, I think we started as a CIC 2 years after that, would have been 2015, because we got a 10-year lease at the time, and the building is now for sale. So unless somebody buys the building with us as tenants, then we'd have to leave.
Okay, so it's really a risk of closure.
we have probably about 9 months left on our contract now. If we did have to leave, it'd be enormous expense, because we only pay £6,000 a year rent here, and on the high street, if we went there, you're talking about 8, 10, 12, and if that was the case, then we simply couldn't really continue doing the charitable work that we do. Look at that. So it started out when was that? Oh yeah, so it gives a history of when it's 69. Is it 69? Yeah, 69. Yeah. And then people have been adding different things. So that's Belle celebrating her life, I guess, when she passed away. And that's Belle cooking, maybe. And this that I showed you up there, the early days of the bookshop. Ah, here we are.
There's a little cat. Wait, is this the cat that's normally
No, it's
here?
a different one. We've had several cats here, but this is because the cat that comes in now is completely black, really vivid black.
So I have a few questions about your personal experience of working in the bookshop. What's the best thing about working here?
The people who come in, they're absolutely fascinating, and they're from all over the world. In fact, a woman just came in a few minutes ago from the Isle of Man, and I said, being here almost 10 years, I've never met anyone from the Isle of Man. But we've had people from South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, America, Canada. It's pretty amazing, and they all come with their own stories of why they're here. Because, you know, Totnes is a very small place, really, isn't it?
But it's also a very happening place. Just the high street is always really busy every time we come.
Yeah, and I didn't even mention like people coming from Spain or Europe as well. But a couple of women were here about a year ago from Los Angeles, and they said, you don't realize what an amazing bookshop you've got here. Like in the whole of Los Angeles, we don't have anything like that. So that was pretty amazing.
So another question I had was, how do you source all of your second-hand books? Where do they come from?
Okay, so when we first started, say 9 years ago, I would probably think we bought 80% of our books. Now it's probably the reverse. We probably buy something like 20% and 80% are donated.
Wow, that is a huge amount. So what kind of things do you accept in the bookstore? How do you decide if something will fit on the shelves here and if it will sell? Because you've got very limited space.
Well, that's a really, really good question. Actually, I'm not the office manager. I work here on Saturday afternoon, but the office manager, he is the one that has the last word about what we take and what we don't take. And we just know from experience what we think will sell and what won't sell. Okay. We get donated so many books, and a lot of them, they just don't fit the kind of clientele that we have that come here.
And are there any specific genres that you're really trying to look for all the time, because that's something that sells well?
Well, all of the ones that you can see we're looking for, but I think, for example, the psychology section is very, very popular. The art section is very popular, and then being Totnes, anything to do with like alternative lifestyles, mind, body, spirit, Buddhism, gender and sexuality. I mean, I'd say that where this gentleman is now, that's probably the most popular section of the bookshop. These sections down here, they're becoming less and less popular. For example, like cooking, people just go online for a recipe. So that's becoming less and less popular. But all of the other ones, I'd say, equally as popular in many ways. A couple of years ago, somebody came in with one book to donate, and it was a book about crop circles. You've heard about crop circles. Yeah. And I was sitting here, and I said, fine. I think I was serving somebody else. I said, just put it here. That's fine. 2 minutes later, somebody walked in and said, I'm looking for a very special book about crop circles.
That's amazing, because how many people are looking for that?
As they said that, they looked down and they saw this book, and it was exactly the one they were looking for, the same author exactly. And it just made me shiver. And that's happened quite a few times, actually.
Well, it's like you said, how the day you came across the bookshop was quite by accident, and then it's changed your whole life.
The magic that happens here is unbelievable, really.
Gosh, it makes you really believe in the power of books. So you obviously sell in store. Do you ever sell online? Can people help the bookstore
We've just started, actually, about 6 months ago. The lady that just came in, Jill, she started taking, because these books here, they're a little bit more expensive. And she started taking 1 or 2 out of here to see if she could sell online, and it's doing quite well, actually.
And we can find that on your website if we...
She might have put it on the website, yeah.
Well, I'll link the website anyway in the description so people can check it out. Thank you so much for taking the time.
It's been a real joy, been a real experience. Lovely. Thank you so much.
We're now going to head back onto the high street because there are a few more treasures to uncover. One of the most unusual aspects of Totnes' high street is right behind me. This is the Butterwalk, and it was built during Tudor times in order to protect dairy stalls from bad weather. On the opposite side of the road, you'll find Poultrywalk, which was built for similar reasons. This is Market Square, and it doesn't seem very busy today, but on Fridays and Saturdays there's a thriving market here where you can find all kinds of local artisans selling their wares. Someone just saw us with our cameras and she asked what we were doing, so we explained that we're making a video for YouTube about Totnes, and if she has any recommendations for good coffee spot around here. She actually said the most happening place is a cinema, so I think we're going to go and check that out now. Hi Jane, thank you so much for having us at the cinema today. So if you could please introduce yourself and your business.
Okay, I'm Jane. This is Totnes Cinema that you're sitting in. It's my business, but it's a community interest company. So we set the project up with my partner in life, Will, as people know him, and it was our project together that we started in 2014. Most of what you see, William actually physically built or definitely designed. And then this building that we're sitting in was built in the 1800s as a hall, a Victorian hall, but was a cinema. So from 1948 to 1964, it was run as the local cinema. We had this sort of coming together of two ideas. One is we had this as cinema equipment, and then the building here, which was then Totnes Library, came up for sale. We didn't want to do traditional cinema seats. We wanted to have a...
Yeah, it's really unusual this, because when we first came in, and I think when you come in, down the corridor and through this door, and then there's just this amazing space, which is really bright and spacious with the cafe tables. It's just...
The community idea was that actually we didn't want a traditional cinema, and so we wanted to be able to have a sort of jazz bar style with tables and chairs. And you can't make money doing that. So if you think, we've got 78 as our maximum sort of seating. You know, most cinemas that are in lines will have 200 seats. And so financially, it was a really stupid idea.
And your tickets are also really affordable. I was looking online compared to a lot of other tickets.
I don't know, some people think they're expensive, but yeah, they are. I mean, yeah, for a night out, it's a pretty affordable night out. But the way that we've done the cinema was very deliberate in that we wanted it to be a place for people to come and watch films was the part of the idea, but also to come during the day. And so again, one of the stupid ideas that William had, which wasn't that stupid, was that we put this light shaft in. So obviously cinemas don't have a big light shaft because you want a dark room, but we wanted a place like we're sitting here, which is probably the best.
Amazing.
It's the best spot, actually. It's the best spot for watching a film. But again, it was to have a space that was alive and open during the day.
And it's become really part of the community. I just couldn't believe it when I came in here the other day, on a Saturday, I guess.
Yeah, Saturday,
and it was just thriving. And the lady behind the counter was telling us that it's a local lady who also makes all the cakes.
Oh, it's Mary, yeah.
Yeah, so
Mary's not, she would have been here today. Mary's kind of one of our key members of the team, and Mary makes all the cakes. And people come in for Mary's cakes.
They're really good.
Yeah, they are really good. And which one did you have?
We had the pastel donata and also the cheese bass cake.
Oh,
they were both very good.
Oh my God, that's Mary's. Yeah, so we funded the place by asking people, basically I sat out on the street with a table. This was a building site, so I had one of these tables with some red velvet on it. And they just said, well, we haven't got a cinema on Totnes. There was a cinema on Totnes. If you want a cinema on Totnes, we'll build one, but we don't have any money. And so what we did is we did our own crowdfunding. So what we did is we asked people to give us £250 with no guarantee that we'd actually be able to do it. And so I think there were a core group of people in town, which are founder members, put their money into the project. And I think that, again, as you think about the community, it kind of got built on that basis. And now we've built up to, I think we've got about 70 or 80 volunteers. Wow. So the guys that make the coffee are paid, so the cafe staff are paid, but the evening is a voluntary thing. So all the bar and the cocktail makers, they're all voluntary.
Oh gosh.
And they come because they want the cinema to, so it kind of built on its own kind of community basis. I mean, I think it's not because they like me and William particularly, it's because they like being part of this. They want to be part of it and they want to create it. So it sort of then kind of rolls into itself.
Why do you think Totnes has such a thriving high street? I mean, you've covered that a bit in what you've already said, but why, when so many other places in the UK are struggling, is Totnes this hive of activity where everyone wants to help each other?
I think my theory is that the area's always attracted interesting people. It's because I feel like people are passionate about what they do. So then they bring that passion into the business that they've got, and then it kind of feeds into itself. So yeah, I remember when we first started, people said there was no nighttime economy in Totnes, which is why when our business plan was to improve the nighttime economy.
I think that leads me on to my next question, which is always my favourite one. What's your favourite thing about your job? What makes you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, I'm so excited?
I think the easy answer is the conversations with people. I guess, yes, actually I'm very sure about that. What I love is people walking through that door, and it's so funny if you work behind the bar because you just see people's faces go, what, right? And so there's that kind of like that surprise thing that people go, what is this? And then I do love films, and I love theatre, and I love lots of other creative like art or music, and then sharing that. So the best bit then is sharing that with other people.
And the films that you choose, I saw that you have a mix of independent films and more mainstream ones. I guess the mainstream ones really bring in crowds, but then how do you find the balance between wanting to share the independent voices that deserve to be seen and then bringing in enough crowds to sell tickets?
That's a really good question, and that's exactly what it is. So that's probably the most kind of interesting bit of the job. And it's a bit like betting. Even with Bridget Jones, I wasn't sure about it because it was released in February. But what we've done is build up a relationship with our community, which is people emailing going, Jane, if you show Bridget Jones, I'll wait until you show it, because I don't want to see it somewhere else. So you start to kind of risk that I don't have them on date. I usually have them about 3 weeks to a month later. And like tonight, we've got Cottontail, which is a Japanese film. It's about a Japanese family coming to the Lake District. Not many people will come, but I know it's a beautiful film. And I think, okay, that's fine, because we have Bridget Jones on Saturday and Sunday, and the books balance well enough.
Thank you so much for talking to us today. It's amazing to see the space that you've created and to learn a bit more about the cinema. And how can people come and visit you if they want to come and have a coffee or see a film?
So we're open every day. So we're open 7 days a week. Coffee starts at 10 in the morning till 2. And then the evenings, we have films every evening, so Monday through to Sunday. And the films, doors open at 7, bar opens at 7. And we have matinees from Wednesday to Sunday. So Mondays and Tuesdays are just the cafe. I think that's it.
Yeah, thank you.
But thank you, and thank you for coming. Thanks for being so positive.
And we'll come back in soon.
Come back, yeah.
The historic Guildhall has been the administrative centre of Totnes for over 450 years. It was built in 1553 on the ruins of a medieval priory, and in its time it has served as a court and also as a prison. It lies right behind the Church of St Mary's, which is unfortunately currently closed for renovation, but is still very beautiful to admire from its exterior. Remember how I said that the High Street is the historic heart of Totnes and its beating centre? Well, if we head down this path, then we will once more reach the High Street in order to see a rather unusual monument. The Eastgate Arch is on the location of what was once the medieval entrance to the town. It was actually rebuilt in 1990 after a devastating fire. If you want to learn even more about the history of Totnes, then you can head to the Totnes Museum. This museum is completely free to visit, though donations are always appreciated. The building itself is one of the oldest on the High Street, as it's 450 years old. Here I stand, and here I rest, and here this good town shall be called Totnes. These are the words that Brutus the Trojan allegedly spoke when he founded the town of Totnes. Brutus the Trojan allegedly had to flee ancient Troy in Greece after killing his father. It's said that he actually ended up coming to an island, the island of Great Britain, and he landed after coming up the River Dart. It's alleged that it was on this stone that he first stood, and that's how Totnes was founded. That's probably not true, but the legend is quite fun, and there's now this stone you can visit on the High Street. Just as we were leaving the High Street, we spotted this huge line for the gelato shop, and it was just another example of how this High Street is definitely thriving. We then headed to the Old Market car park, which has some of the best views over town. If you're a fan of heritage trains, then one of the most unique activities you can do here in Totnes is to go on the heritage train, which runs between Totnes and Buckfastleigh several times a week. Unfortunately, it's not operational today, but when it is, you'll go on a leisurely journey along an old portion of the Great Western Railway track. Totnes' idyllic location in the heart of the Devonian countryside means that it's surrounded by rolling green hills and lots of little villages. For example, this is Littlehempston, and it's home to just under 300 residents, 1 church and just 2 pubs. The Church of Littlehempston is dedicated to St. John the Baptist, and although it's believed that it might date back to the 14th century, most of what you see today was constructed in the 15th. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!